All right, we're ready.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We are, what are we called? The University Area Impact
UID.
Design Review Board. We have a very complicated name. Welcome. We are, I'm not the usual chairman. Keone will be chairing this meeting when he gets here, but in the meantime, we do have a quorum. So we're going to move forward. We have, what do we have? We need to call the roll first. Okay.
Roll.
All right, very good.
Mr. Fleming. This way. Mr. Grado.
Here.
Ms. Jones. Here. Mr. Petrozello.
Here,
Mr. Reeds.
present.
And Ms. Yuha Sauer. Present. Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. Okay, has everybody reviewed the minutes, and do you have any objections or corrections or anything like that to discuss? No? Okay. Approved.
A second.
Moved and seconded.
So it was moved by Mr. Reeds.
Yes, and seconded by KB,
I'll call the roll for that.
please.
Mr. Grado.
Yes.
Ms. Jones. Yes. Mr. Petrozello.
Yes.
Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
Ms. Yuha Sauer. Yes. Thank you. I think I need to be sworn in.
You do, huh? Well, we'll swear you in, along with whomever else would like to speak this evening, please. If you will stand. I don't know the words, so I'm gonna make them up. You swear and affirm to tell the truth, only the truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Very good, appreciate it, thank you. All right, our first case.
Okay, I just need to make an announcement. So I just need to make an announcement about City of Columbus COVID-19 safety protocols. So if you're comfortable, it's recommended that a mask be worn. And essentially we are, have social distancing in the room. And then up by the door there are hand sanitizer, there are wipes, and there are masks if that's something that you need to utilize. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our first case, 1347 North High Street. If you would please come forward, that would be great. And staff, do you have anything to present?
Yes. Okay, so for this case, so this applicant is seeking approval to construct a 7-story, 85-foot mixed-use building with 153 apartment units on floors 1 through 7, 176 parking spaces within a 2 to 3 level parking garage, 7,109 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor and rooftop amenity spaces. The existing site contains 5 parcels totaling 1.04 acres and is bounded by North High Street to the east, King Avenue to the north, North Wall Street to the west, and a parcel with brick apartments to the south. There are 5 contributing structures on the site built between 1901 and 1947, one of which the applicant will preserve and incorporate into the new development. At the June 2021 meeting, the application was tabled and the board expressed concern that the application materials were not complete enough to review and vote on the case. Specifically, the board requested at least 30% construction drawings that include wall and window details related to the composition and fenestration of the building exterior. In response to the June feedback, the applicant submitted a 50% construction drawing set that includes but is not limited to ceilings, roof assemblies and details, roofing details and penetrations, elevations of the exterior finish schedule, fiber cement, siding details, brick details, metal panel details, and water details, section details, and doors, storefront system, and window schedules and details. So after review of their 50% construction drawing set, the proposal is generally consistent with the recommendations of the University District Plan. The plan recommends for site regional mixed use, which supports mixed use corridors with the densest development. And the plan states that new construction be of compatible design with nearby contributing buildings and streetscape, that contributing buildings be preserved, and that taller buildings provide setbacks and upper stories. The proposal provides dense mixed-use development, preserves an existing contributing building, and provides setbacks on the building's upper floors. Additionally, while the proposed height is 85 feet, the preservation of the existing streetscape, upper floor setbacks in Plain Street, and the high design quality mitigate the impacts of the proposed height. And so as such, staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Great. Our chairman for today has arrived. Let the record show.
Congratulations.
Mr. Fleming is here.
You ceding your position, Fran?
Well, I think that I'm not able to see you are. Spatial. But what I would do right now is ask the applicant to show us what they have added since last time. And hopefully it will be put up on the screen. If you could sort of.
Oh, 141 pages.
Yes, if you could limit yourself to the details of the exterior. Section.
Specific request of the last week.
What's that?
Specific request of the last.
Yes, yes, so that we don't have to go through 150 or however many pages there are here, that would be wonderful. So please.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Complete but short.
100%.
Elevation.
Yeah.
And just so they look about the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Brand styles with subtext. It's great to see everybody in person. This is our first public city meeting since it all happened. So it's great to be back. I also have Ross Kirby, Principal Dynamic Studio. They're the architect of record. Tim Bass is here as well with Bass Studios, the local architect, Michael Shannon with our local land use firm. So as Belk has communicated, we have submitted a 50% set of CD drawings. In addition, we've submitted a supplement, which is the CD set was about 500 pages. And we also, so that you guys didn't have to review through the whole CD set, we submitted a supplement that has about 60 pages of, or 40 pages of architectural documents, and I think there were another like 100 pages of cut sheets or so that went along with the construction set. So the goal here today for us, we're open for anything, but what we want to focus on is the comments that were addressed last week, or last UIDRB meeting, received some feedback and, hopefully call the question, because our hope is that the submission is adequate for a vote. But so I will pass it on to Ross to talk through some of the items that were identified last month and go through some of those details.
Okay. And part of the challenge with assembling a presentation like this, where we're extracting the construction documents and trying to tie it into the aesthetics of what was presented before, means that we're going to be jumping around a little bit between how the set is organized. So I'll mention the page numbers, because you can just jump back and forth between them. So let's start with page 41.
Is it 41 on the construction set, or is it 41 on?
41
On the
of
presentation.
the presentation set. And so just to recap the elevations, how the building is masked, where the weight of the building is with the materials, the brick, the existing building. These are the same documents that were presented before. The building facade design has not changed. So if you go to the next page, you can see that's also presented before, calling out where the different materials are used throughout the project. So then if you will go back to page 15, which is the construction document elevations.
This is the supplement that was.
Yes, this is the 44-page supplement.
So, any,
This is Scott, I just want to clarify. So they have a 50% CD set. And just so I didn't have to scroll between 100 and whatever pages, They just extracted roughly 40 pages of the CD set.
The problem is we don't have those.
Oh, they're right here, and they're uploaded to Box as well. So the full construction set was uploaded to Box, and I have it here.
What's it called? What's the file called?
Yeah, it is. It should be UID 20 dash, it's the case number, and then it says meeting materials. Give you the case number, so it should say UID dash 20 dash 11 dash 002 meeting materials.
Mean materials.
And so that's the full construction set. But just for the purpose of today's meeting, we've extracted about 40 pages just to quickly flip through.
And that's a file here also?
No, it's just for use for the meeting, but there was saved pages as,
So you'll put them up there, right?
exact, that's what we do.
All right, so
Okay, so as I was saying, these are the construction document elevation pages, and we included them so you can see, compare between what was presented before and what we have now. They are the same building. We're not changing any of the design elements. We're just considering additional documentation. So if you go to the next page.
Belkis, that's the lighting exhibit. So
So yes, so go to the next page. And then that's the last of the elevation pages. So go to page 2, please. What we've done is to organize this. We included some of the landscape and building plans, but these are the scope of the elements that we were asked to address in additional detailing perspective. Some of the roofing details, wall sections, including where different specific details occur, exterior material details, whether they're typical or specific to this project, and then our door, window, and storefront head and seal details. So that's what we've extracted from the overall construction document set for you to be able to look at tonight. So then if you'll go to page 18. And in this set, we've extracted our partial elevations and wall sections from which we call out in large details of all the various penetration conditions. And I think of the most relevant are the ones that are related to the windows and material transitions. So if you'll go to page 36. Thank you. And before I get into the actual details themselves, just to orient you, because some of the numbers may be kind of hard to read on this, the way we organize our sheets, when I say detail 1, 2, 3, 4, that's starting in the bottom right corner and going up the page. 5, 6, 7, 8 is the second column over going up the page. Just a visual, you can know where I'm talking about on the sheet as we go through it. On this page, you'll see the first column on the right of details are our recessed nail fin windows at the brick materials. So you can see the recess with the nail fin back at the face of sheeting. The details 5 through 7 are showing a recess with a 2x4 furring strip to provide an additional recess for the nail planed windows at the fiber cement facade materials. Details 9 through 11 are the nail fin windows at the box rib, which is a little bit different detail, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second. And details 12 through 14 are the recessed nail fin windows at the composite metal panel. So the brick detail windows are recessed. The fiber cement and the metal panel material windows are recessed. At the box rib panel, because it's a different facade material, we have more relief in the actual facade material. So the window there is not recessed as far. We've created a shadow line with a flange around the window itself to continue that same shadow pattern. But in all, the windows are all recessed with that exception. At the vertical corrugated panel.
Okay, that's
And then if you will go to page 37. And you'll see some similar details. We have a couple of different patterns of fiber cement siding, so we have additional details for those. On this page in particular, the 3 details on the second column where you can see the wall pochade is at the existing building facade where we're using our historic windows and doors, and it's further recessed to keep in line with the detailing that's appropriate to that building facade. So you can see where we've incorporated those. And then the last ones on this page that we want to look at are 7, 8, and 9, which are the third column from the right, which are the louvers on the backside of the parking garage, where we recessed into our casting place wall. And then the last column on the far left, details 10, 11, and 12 are nail flange windows that are not as recessed because they are on the interior courtyard facing the pool deck. So they're on the inner facing portion of the project that you can't see from the street. And if you'll go to page 38. So these are our typical storefront details. You'll see a lot of the same approach to design, holding the storefront back at the face of sheathing to create the depth and weight to the facade that we've been striving to approach for the overall building design that we've talked about in previous meetings, and just wanted to demonstrate that we've incorporated those same details here because that was the request, to demonstrate that we weren't just saying that we were going to recess the windows and recess the storefront and recess the doors. These are the actual details we're planning to incorporate in our pricing for the project.
You're using pre-finished cement.
Yes, no, it's fuel painted. So we can get the custom colors that are in the design.
Sorry, I'm on the previous sheet, A823, and I'm looking at a sill that is a 5-quarter board. Appears to be on the outside. You're using cement board as a sill.
Which detail is that?
One window sill with fiber cement panel, A823.
The window itself is not fiber cement, no. Well, it's called out as trim board.
What is that?
It's called out as trim board, but it'll be a composite material instead. Not necessarily. It could be a composite plastic material, or it could be a metal wrapping for the brake metal as a sill to create that same shape.
That's your business, but that's not gonna deal with water, snow, fibers. Maybe. There are.
I was just curious about the material I've never seen. I thought it was fiber cement. I've never seen it used sill. Okay. Keep going, please.
And then if we go to page 34,
That is sheet number what?
that is sheet number A8-11.
A8.
And these are the door details showing similar recesses of the brick. We don't have very many doors in the, or any doors really in the metal panel portion component. So
So
this is to show the doors.
Detail 15, willing door had an FCM panel, that's your metal panel system.
That's correct.
What's the gray box?
At the coiling door or at the typical door? It's a fiber cement piece on the underside of the, so there's gypsum wrapping around the underside of the steel jam or steel head.
Is there metal panels on the side?
Yes,
It's all,
there's,
it's about 75%.
there's the vertical corrugated metal, and then there's a Versalock brown metal panel that's in a running bond pattern, and then there's a,
Corners.
I'm sorry?
Can you show us the corners?
No, I'm coming to this. So I was going to go into our typical material details. I just wanted to address the ones about the windows and penetrations first. And then if you will go to page 27.
Which is sheet number.
Can you scroll down? Just
A5-51.
Yeah.
Yes. These are our typical fiber cement details. So you can see the in plan on details 9 and 10, the typical inside and outside corner. We don't have any fiber cement soffits on this, so those aren't included, but there are typical penetrations and flashing details that are for industry standards. If we go to the next page.
Hold on. Outside corner, detail at left side, oh, it says left side.
Yes,
Right, go ahead.
the next page, please. Which is our brick details, similar approach to how the sheet is laid out and seeing some of the transitions. You'll see in the bottom left corner where brick terminates vertically against another material, how we're doing the transitions. And then also some additional breakaway details for waterproofing and patio transitions. Since a number of the materials stop above grade, we have,
Fiber cement, it's like your outside corner, you're doing a combination. Pre-finished one lighter in some places, and just standard fiber cement.
yes.
Where's one used versus the other?
Typically at the inner courtyard side, we have the fiber cement trim, and at the outside corners in the public facing facade, we have the metal trim, so it's a cleaner
So the inner
transition.
courtyards will stick in treatment details outside the joint.
That's correct. If you'll go to page 30, which is A554, I believe, yes. Those are our composite metal panel details. You can see similar inside and outside corners where we have the trim piece that's by the same manufacturer as the metal panels themselves, so it's an integral assembly, arrangement assembly. In particular, I want to call out detail 4 at the top right corner of the page where we have our metal panel parapet coping. So the metal panel itself terminates at the top of the wall.
It's the corrugated metal panel.
No, this is the smooth
Yes,
metal
yes.
panels, yes.
Where's the yes?
It's the
Darker brown.
the darker brown.
Down at the bottom.
Right, that's right. Higher up where we have the box rib, we have a more conventional metal coping since there's not a way to wrap the corrugated metal and bend it around the top of the parapet.
Yeah.
And you'll see that on the next page, page 31, which is the box rib, the vertical corrugated metal panel details. Similar approach to design with the inside and outside corners. There's a prefabricated piece that terminates at those conditions. You'll see on the sort of the two middle details, the two details at the bottom of the middle column. And then at the parapet coping, the third detail up on the right column, where we have a typical metal coping to terminate the vertical corrugated beneath.
All right, so at your outside corners, you're doing a piece of trim metal.
That's correct. And it's in the same color and finish as the box rib. If you'll go to the next page, page 32. These are the standing seam metal roofing details that we have at the mansards over the townhomes, including the ridge and flashing details, and then typical inside and outside corners where we're making the transition to the smooth metal panel and changing the orientation because of the way the sloped pitch roof of the mansard dies into the vertical of the adjacent wall. And then last, if we go to page 33. There have been particular specific requests for details of how and where the planters that are on the roof facing towards Wall Street are incorporated. So the two details on the right side of the page are at the lower level, basically directly above the parking deck, where there's a cast in place structure, and they're attached to the back face of that parapet wall so that the plantings can cascade over the edge as is shown in the renderings. And those are in prefabricated FRP boxes that are attached, sitting on shelves and attached to the back face of the cast in place parapet wall.
Irrigation.
Yes, they are irrigated. And the two details in the middle of the page are the elevated roof. So the one that's sitting up there, slightly larger boxes with bigger plantings in them, shrubs and grasses. And they are sitting on the split slab at level 4. And then the one below that is up on the roof that step up vertically along Wall Street. And are carried to just above the parapet to ensure that the screening and the greenery is actually visible from the street, as was shown in the renderings. If you'll pan up on the page to the detail directly above that.
And just to make a note on those, we're working with Dennison Place to select plants. I think there might be there could potentially be a revision just to increase restricted views into the neighborhood from the courtyard. And then we've also made a modification in here to increase the height of that screening wall from 7 feet to 8 feet per the request of the neighborhood.
And as Brian was saying, there's, it's a little thin because it's a narrow element, but just to the right of that planter, you can see a detail for the perforated metal screen that runs along behind the parapet as well. And that is the bulk of it. You're welcome to ask specific questions if you have them, I guess.
Yeah, I'll have a few. I think there's a speaker on public cap.
I'm Kathy Fox, representing the Denison Place Neighborhood Association. We respectfully request that the conditions for approval of this project include the following for the outdoor amenity deck. The material for the perimeter screen should have acoustical dampening properties. The amenity deck should include the planters and screen along the west parapet wall and the south parapet wall on the amenity deck. The plants to be installed in the planters along those same two parapet walls should be plants that will grow taller to make an effective screen. The developer has told us that these details will be included in the project, but the drawings that you've seen today do not yet reflect all of these items. So we're respectfully requesting that they be included as conditions to the certificate of approval. Thank you very much for your consideration and your detailed review.
Want to address any of those comments?
I think all of the suggestions and requests that were made, we're willing to accommodate. I do think there's some discretion as it relates to acoustical properties for a screening wall that I would like to work out with the neighborhood instead of it being a condition, because I don't really understand. I don't know if there's screening walls that have acoustical components to it, but we'll do our best to, a combination of plants and I just don't, we're willing to, we told her we'll agree to all of them. And I just want to make sure that we need to qualify what the acoustical component is before we agree to that part.
Any comments or questions from members of the board?
I pointed out to the room, we started this project in person. And it wasn't going to be approved.
I'm sorry, Frank, could you speak up a little bit? Oh, we could do it that.
Well, I'll do it. No, I commented to the applicant that this project started in person in this room. And that it was never going to be completed until we were back in this room. All of COVID was just waiting time till we could meet again in person.
And yet in the meantime, they did a lot of work.
Of course.
So Frank, you're saying this project is dictated both the pandemic and the vaccination?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. We better approve it quickly because who knows? Okay, so I would say our window is fast closing.
Yeah.
I have no comments. Other than that. I have no comments.
No, but the only comment slash question is the screening on the west, I have less concern about because I think you look at what's occurring across the alley to the immediate west, it's like it's garages and so, but I think that if the intent was that have larger stuff, and I looked at the section of the planting volume to accommodate vines, they're presumably going to drape over through the building. And I can't remember as the building steps down, if those also does it have a similar planting condition? So the section on the inside is similar every place. Now you've got the larger planters that sit on the deck are to accommodate shrubs, but for the vines, it's a smaller container, as it were.
That's correct.
Okay. Because I'm just saying that the smaller containers are not going to accommodate.
Oh, the intent is not, it's just for the vines, for the smaller container. We're talking about the separation from really the south, where will be
It's the south.
Pretty much the south and the neighborhood, but on that amenity deck level.
Before I make the motion, Bill or Steve have the text to the amendments that were passed and seemingly they were accepted.
Yes.
You do. Okay. And then I move that we finally approve as submitted with conditions as agreed upon between the neighborhood association and the developer.
So second.
I second.
All those.
Carrie, second.
Then I can call the roll. Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Grado,
I recuse myself.
Ms. Jones,
I support.
Mr. Petrozello,
Yes.
and Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Ms. Bucksauer. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Next project, we want it to be more efficient.
It will be. It will be, I promise. We will be back.
We don't want to assume that all this time was
It was-
wasted in training.
It was a great learning experience.
So come back.
We will. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Hobbs.
Well, Mr. Hodge is not nearly as entertaining on webcam, so it's nice to be back in person.
Happy to see people.
I think I got it.
But less like.
I guess before we get started, I can tell Pasquale and Doreen that I called the Cerrito Canova Police Department today looking for that mug shot. So I'll see if I can figure that out and circulate it to everybody.
We remember you in that Grateful Dead t-shirt.
All right. UAD 2107-02, 13th Avenue, at full. How do you extension variances? Help us
Yes.
take away.
And this report will also include UIG 2107-03 for the design as well. So 19 East 13th Avenue is the current location of Ethel and Tank Restaurant, which includes a 467 square foot patio, a planting bed in front of the patio, and a 7-space surface parking lot just to the west, directly behind the midway on High venue. The applicant is seeking approval to extend the patio by 578 square feet into the area where the planting bed exists currently and make some modifications to the parking lot. The patio will include new 410 steel railings, a green retaining wall, curved 410 sculptural wall elements, and a concrete wall, stairs, and tiered seating. The parking lot will include new bollards, a hot box with a sprinkler riser, and dumpster enclosure. Staff notes that the core 10 sculptural wall elements will not extend past the property line into the right of way. And the applicant is also seeking approval for several variances to accompany the above work, which includes 1, a parking variance of 51 to 7 spaces, 2, reducing the loading space requirement from 1 to 0, and 3, reducing the parking lot driveway and East 13th and North Pearl Street clear vision triangles from 10 to 5 feet. The submittal includes existing site photos, renderings, a site plan, elevations, variance application, and materials. And after reviewing the application, the proposal is generally consistent with the recommendations of the University District Plan. The plan recommends that development enhance the unique characteristics of the district and that outdoor dining not create visual or physical obstacles to adjacent buildings, streetscape elements, and pedestrian transit. Furthermore, the plan states that the parking variances may be reviewed with consideration of the presence of on-street parking, extent of the variance requested, size and nature of use, and potential impact on adjacent residential uses. As the site is located within a walkable neighborhood and in close proximity to public transit, and the proposed patio does not create any obstacles to adjacent buildings or the streetscape, Staff recommends approval for the proposed variance recommendation and plan design. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Hodge, you wanna tell us about it?
Yeah, David Hodge, attorney for the applicant, and I think I'll just stand on the staff's report. Well, so I am actually grossly unprepared to talk about the COA component of this application. The architect is unavailable to be here. I think I'd rather just postpone that until next month when they're able to be here, and I'd like to be able to get a recommendation on the variance request from the board.
Who's the art?
Tim Lai,
Then we're only talking about,
that's correct. And
I said, we're only talking about the parking variance.
And really, the parking variance, as I said last night to the University Area Commission, which has turned this down by a large majority. Even though, I mean, that's a bunch of zoning gobbledygook. It's really 2 parking spaces is what we're talking about here. A 600 square foot, just about 600 square foot patio requires 2 additional parking spaces. This is Midway and Ethel Tank. That parking lot that's between those 2 uses is already grossly inadequate to serve both of those uses. I mean, in terms of the code, but really what it is, which is a pedestrian part of town where students are walking to drink and people that live in the neighborhood are walking to drink. So really, this is 2 parking spaces, and we want to convert the patio right there where you see that green wall by about 600 square feet.
I don't have any spaces. You should note that in your letter at paragraph 4, there's a pretty significant typo. You'll certainly want to correct that because your name is signed on a document. If we're only discussing the parking variance at this point, that would be the article of vote on. But it might be useful to carry information back to the architect that there's some concern about the stair as a design element. I raised concern about its safety, and people are drinking on the seated area, and they're drinking on the seated in the step area. What's to protect people from falling down the stairs? So I'm not in support of that at this moment. The other thing to note is I'd like to hear from the architect about the use of porcelain steel, because that's a brand name. That type of material stains significantly. See a gentleman sitting on something that in the bracket looks like it's the same steel material. And it's not clear what that element is, because the place where the gentleman is sitting in the bracket, there are 3 other planes that are extended and they're not at the same height. So are they all benches? What are those? It's unclear. And if that's porcelain steel or steel sticking on the wall, they're going to come and put themselves on it. It's rusty. So I'm not in support of the elements that I see in the design of this.
This is staff. I just wanted to make a note. So what's triggering the parking variance and there are other variances in this application as well, is the extension of the patio. So it would be staff's recommendation that those variances in the design stay together. So if we're not ready to vote on the design today, then we should also this is staff's recommendation, that we also postpone the vote on the variance, given that the extension of the patio, that's the design, is triggering these variances, i.e.
Makes perfect sense. Gives me a chance to fix the typos as well.
Tell me about the typos.
Paragraph 4 in your letter.
But we could discuss this conceptually today, as we've already started to, so that's.
Questions that Mr. Abbott won't be able to answer. Right, so that's a
Right.
Well, I don't want to table,
And
but
I'm sorry, we're sort of losing the conversation down here a bit too. From everyone, if you don't mind.
trying to figure this out.
the gist was that the variances are so interrelated with the design element here that some board members are uncomfortable voting and taking a position on the variances absent finality on the design aspect.
And it's actually, it's also staff's recommendation. The variances and the design stay together as that they be voted on, in the same month. So we're gonna wait on the design, so the design is triggering these variances, i.e. the expansion of the patio and what that looks like. Then it's staff's recommendation that the design and variances wait until the, August meeting.
What is your August meeting date?
That'll be August 28th. And so, one option that the board would have would be to motion to continue the application, which just means that we're gonna wait to hear it next month.
Can I request that the board just vote no on my variance requests?
What are the variants aside from the parking?
So it's vision clearance at the parking lot,
Site triangle?
right? Sight triangle at the alley, which is a technical issue because the alley's one way east, so we're not really in any vision clearance because cars are not coming westbound through that alley.
Backing out of parking spaces that people will be coming off High Street turning right.
No, you can't. It's blocked at High Street.
Reverse logic of 51. And turning into 2 was what?
Right. We had to go back. Oddly enough, for some strange reason that predates me, doesn't mean it predates everybody on this board. Midway and well, some of you have been on this board a long time, long as I've been around. Ethylene tank and Midway in that parking lot are for some strange reason all on the same parcel, which is a very unusual condition. And so when we went back and wrote this up and visited with zoning clearance, we had to come up with the total parking required for Midway, the total parking required for Ethylene Tank as bar/restaurant, the existing parking spaces in that lot, and then do a calculation based upon the administrative parking section of the code to determine what would be needed in total for those. So.
Are you, like, I mean, it's a grant. Right, so that's
Yes, the answer is yes.
yes for grandfather or yes for?
Yes, it is grandfathered or legal non-conforming. It
Right.
wouldn't, 7
It is for-
spaces to serve, whatever that is. So the reason I say it's 2 is because the patio expansion, which is driving this, is 598 square feet or whatever the exact number is, and that's 2 parking spaces.
Your grandfather, yeah, so you're basically your grandfather. Yeah, expand the patio by roughly 600 square feet, as far as you can have 2 spaces.
Correct. So all this zoning stuff to me is, I'm a practitioner in it. It's gobbledygook. It's 51-7. That's not what it is. It's 2 parking spaces we're talking about. Well, just because I can move on. You all are going to vote no on it anyway, and I can come in and, well, 2 of you are.
Actually, as a reminder, I don't know if you here paid the tank originally. Okay. We remind you of the history. We were very appreciative of the fact that the client wanted to put an upscale eatery and restaurant on that. Those existing 3 commercial retail spots, thank you. But we were concerned that, God forbid, it would change hands, that it would turn into a drink and drown bar. And with the work that was in process for the redevelopment of 15th and High, we felt that that kind of density of use was inappropriate in the proximity to the redevelopment. So what we did, this board did, is develop that scheme for the landscaping across the front of the building so that the seating, the outside seating could be limited to a type of seating and density that would be complementary to upscale restaurant. And that's the way it was being used until it was purchased by Midway. And now the use has changed dramatically.
What was, so it's Ethel, same restaurant, but changed ownership?
Yes.
So what was the upscale restaurant?
The upscale restaurant was Ethel in Tank. The name stayed the same. The
Okay.
ownership
Okay.
changed, okay? So if you look, the seating outside, based on this board's input, was what you see here. If you could flip to the proposal. Okay, give me the front view. Okay, if you look at what is being proposed with bleacher seating along that other end, that density does not complement a sit-down table type density. Then if you look at,
Okay, keep going.
then if you look at what's being proposed on the green wall, there's even seating that would be in the public right of way where because of what we've been experiencing during the pandemic and prior to, with the lack of supervision of the outside patio area at Midway, the illegal use of the parking lot as a place of assembly, and then ultimately that flows all into the street. This proposal is just going to exacerbate that situation.
I don't know if I
And
can
then, sorry,
add,
this is Dab. I just wanted to clarify. So just so everyone knows, the core 10 wall sculptures, they do extend out. But they are, just so everyone knows, they're within the property line and they don't go into the formal right of way. So physically, right, they do pull out, but in terms of property, they are within the property line, just so.
Yeah, that wasn't my issue, but
Oh,
thanks for
okay.
pointing that out. The issue is if you look, there's a person seated
Yeah.
on the seats.
Yeah. If I can add something from the area commission last night, vote was 11, there were 11 people that we had quorum, 8 against and 3 in favor of what Mr. Hodge presented. I think for the area commission perspective, it's probably best to state that this is complicated by the lack of supervision, including some issues on what was proposed at Midway, because we know that the two properties are closely tied, where there was exterior modification that was taking place. Am I right, David? And that has to be resolved here because the Chastity Minor was there from City Attorney last night. I think for the area commission, that becomes another part of the issue, even though Mr. Hodge made one of the most eloquent arguments for a drink and town bar, and those were your words.
Yeah, those.
I had ever heard. So I do have to say, that was, I think you got 3 votes last night for that one.
I mean,
And 3 people who were angry at the remainder of you, but that's politics.
so remind me, what's the zoning inside?
I think it's a straight C4.
What are allowed uses?
Everything you can fathom.
So is the use somehow not compliant?
The use is compliant. The use is compliant.
The use is compliant.
But the extenuating circumstances seem to indicate that the applicant, not the lawyer, cannot always be trusted.
So let me, Doreen, would it be okay if I sort of say the same thing you just now said, but in David Hodge words instead of Doreen words?
I'm sorry, did you say one more time?
Would it be fair if I essentially say the same thing you said in my own language?
Yes,
Okay. The way I would say what Doreen just said is this. A majority of the area commission voted the way it voted on our proposal based upon the fact that historically Midway has been perceived as not being a good actor in the neighborhood. There have been code enforcement issues there. There have been noise complaints there. Look, it's Midway. I've never been to it, but I think it's a college drink and drown bar, and it's had its issues. And so that is not perceived by a majority of the members of the University Area Commission as being, an appropriate use of the property. Hell, I went to college at the University of Kentucky and other places, and there were drinking drowns there, and there are drinking drowns at every 50,000 plus college institution in this country, except for, maybe the right wing religious ones. Maybe they're there too. I don't know. Yeah, Brigham Young, you're right. They're not allowed to drink alcohol when you're Mormon, right? Right, which does exist. Now,
That's awesome. Somebody wants to make is it a good idea to make the patio bigger? Is it gonna be better for the street to make the patio bigger? I don't think so. I'm not sure. I'm forgetting everything. I'm not biased by any of it. I'm looking at that and I'm saying, well, somebody spent a lot of money with bushes there, and they appear to be alive. So some of the drowning work. And now, can it be better? It can always be better. If I guess if there was a scheme that somehow made that better, maybe that it's not lineal, maybe there's more landscaping up against the window and then some part of it juts out or something like that. If somebody wanted to do that, and if it was a little bit more square feet than it is today, I would say it's a no-brainer. But, the scheme I'm looking at here is a concrete jungle. And I'm looking at the square footage of the flat area. It's 507 square feet, but then there's no square feet noted for the stepped area. So do you get a pass on that? Or, how about the square feet of the stepped area? So, it looks to me like you're more than doubling the size more than doubling the size of the existing patio, and pretty much just paving the whole thing. And in no amount of, and that green is not green, that's fake, right? That's some sort of photographic something or another, or whatever it is. I don't know what live.
the intention is to make it alive.
Yeah.
On the north side.
Yeah. So, I don't find any, and believe me, it has nothing to do, because I don't know anything about the way it's operating or anything like that. But I don't see an improvement there. And I don't see a reason to get rid of all that landscaping for that purpose. So for me, it's ultimately about design, not about politics. And if the architect had some idea that made it better, then I'd be happy to listen to it. But I don't see an idea that makes it better.
David, question?
Yeah.
The bleacher seating is not in your,
Well, that is, I believe it is. But the way it's noted on the plan, it seems that it's left off. I just made a note of that to check. So,
because the
yeah.
density of that seating is not consistent with your
Agreed.
parking.
Agreed. If that square footage was excluded from what was noted on the plan, then it needs to go into the parking reduction at a minimum.
Right, but as Frank said, in terms of design, that bleacher seating is totally inappropriate because what you're doing is commanding the inadvertent use of the street, because with that congregation of folks
It's set back.
there on that bleacher seating, that's just gonna be really detrimental to that street.
I'm going to say I concur with Frank. I don't believe that's the purview of this board to enforce particular specifics of the use that's allowed by the zoning code. So the desire to enforce a high dining establishment versus a drinking ground bar is not what our purview is. If I look at the language of the zoning code, our purview is to consider the appropriateness of the physical intervention with regard to the neighborhood. And I think Frank put it the right way. Like right now, it doesn't seem to improve the streetscape. So I personally am open to a design that improves connectivity between retail establishment and the street and does something better than what's being shown. And I don't care about past history.
Keone, and Frank, if I can kind of add to this, I do want to agree with what David said, however, because when the area commission voted, the zoning committee's recommendation for the area commission was unanimously no. But the discussion about design falls to this board. So it was really seen in a different context, and you're very right in saying that that was probably a great part of deciding.
Yeah, and it is true that that Midway is under an enforcement action for not getting a certificate of appropriateness from this board. That wasn't Midway, it was the architect. The architect actually came here. They had a building permit issued. The plans examiner missed that it was in this neighborhood and didn't look for the stamp. So they issued the permit. Midway went ahead with the work, and now that's got to come back and get fixed. They have, as I said last night, they've got me, they've got, I think, 2 other law firms. There's a huge meeting on Monday with everybody together to figure out how to resolve this issue and some of the other issues. But, you know, in terms of who these people are, if you don't know, if you've been to Crest or the market there in Italian Village, or, I mean, these are some pretty good operators. They've been very successful, and, you know, chefs in their establishments, great food, great atmosphere.
I have no disagreement with that, David, but that's not our purview.
Sure, okay, yeah. Yeah.
What Frank has made very
Sure.
clear is this is a design.
Okay.
We're here to see if a change that's made that values a variance is improved the streetscape. And we're saying at this time, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I will add to that. I've seen the sort of zoning process, and I've seen it on a project presented, used as a way of attempting to basically stop development that was allowed by the use. And I'm not sympathetic to this. But I think Frank has been clear in that what we're interested is in design and
Okay. And it's the conclusion, I don't want to take up any more time, but let's just clear this last part up. It's the conclusion that the design is so interrelated with the variances that the two need to be considered together. I request that this be tabled then.
We need a motion for the tabling. Is it my best practice with East Franklinton that any agenda item that's up for action does receive a vote, tabled or continued, you know, whatever?
I so move.
Okay.
Second.
Let me say 4 days.
AB Harry second.
Okay. Okay, and then I'll call the roll for the variances.
No.
Right, to table. Yeah. So, Mr. Grado,
Yes.
to table, yep. Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Petrosi?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Ms. Sauer? Yes. Oh, and Mr. Plumlee?
Yes.
Thank you all. Great to see everybody. See you next month.
Should I assume the same motion and second and vote for the design as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, UID 21-07-04, 1516 North High Street, Big Bang projecting mechanics.
Hello? We have an applicant? Okay. So 1516 North Lake Street is on the corner of North High Street and East 9th Avenue within the High Line at 9 building. It's the former site of Chumley's and will be the new location of the Big Bang Piano Bar. The applicant is seeking approval for a new projecting sign and a new canopy sign. The proposed projecting sign is approximately 30.2 square feet with a combination of LED, neon, and fluorescent lighting, a mix of cabinet and channel letter materials, and is mounted to the facade using a bracket and bolts to a steel stub. The proposed canopy sign is approximately 14.7 square feet with LED baselit channel letters and polycarbonate letter faces. It will be mounted to the existing steel canopy using ties and aluminum wire array. And after review of the proposal, it is generally consistent with the recommendations of the University District Plan. The plan recommends that new signage be designed to be complementary component of the overall design of a storefront in terms of lighting and scale, and that the internally illuminated channel letters and uniquely shaped internally lit signs may be appropriate. In addition, the plan recommends for projecting signs to be proportional in the building and six square feet per side and located between the storefront display windows and below the second story window sills. Lastly, the plan recommends that canopy signs be limited to the front valance and not exceed 50% of the area of the front facing valance. Although both signs exceed the recommended maximum size, both complement the scale of the building facade and are located appropriately and incorporate internally illuminated channel letters and unique design. And as such, staff recommends approval with conditions. And the condition B, that any visible mounting bolt be covered with estrogen plates. Thank you.
You guys can sign, sworn in.
I have, yes.
I think there
I'm
was,
not wearing any hearing aids and I usually do, so
Have you been
if I
sworn?
look at you with a blank stare, then, okay.
All right, go ahead.
My name's Jared Norton with Morrison Sign Company, and this is Sam Leatherwood with the Big Bang, and we're here to discuss signage at 1516 North High Street. I'll give you a little background on this, I guess this proposal. The Big Bang was previously located at 401 North Front Street here in Columbus. They're now moving into the university area. And with that, we've designed two signs that we feel will help aid in pedestrian and vehicular traffic along High Street and 9th. So the first sign, as you can see there, is the projecting sign. It's a pretty fun sign, if I do say so myself, with a little bit of neon, some LED channel letters, all mixed together for a bright sign. And for what it's worth, the Big Bang sign is roughly 30 square feet. The Chumley sign that you can see measured roughly 40 square feet. So it's similar in size, a bit smaller, but we feel that the fact that it projects out from the building will give a bit more visibility. We felt that the Chumley sign, as is, it kind of gets lost on the building there. So our goal there was to make sure this was visible to pedestrian traffic. And the second sign there above the canopy is above the main entry to the facility. And it's a very straightforward aluminum channel letter sign with front illumination, and that measures 10 square feet, and that will be mounted flush to that steel canopy above the entryway.
Any questions, comments from members of the board?
real neon or LED neon?
It is real neon.
I love neon, but I don't love the fact that it gets broken and never gets fixed. This is pretty exposed. I mean, it's not my problem, okay? I worry about it, long term.
Could I address that real quick? I think that sign is about 12 years old.
It is. So that sign exists now. That was currently located at the 401 North Front Street location.
I don't think we've ever had any problem.
I don't believe so.
You're not in the university.
Correct, but this one is higher than the location of the Front Street location. So we have, yeah, right. We have that going for us.
See, neon, I really, I have neon in my own yard at home, okay? It's just, it's a maintenance
It's
issue.
fragile, yes.
Do you have a measured drawing looking north? Because that looks smaller than your dimension.
So looking north, the only drawing we have looking north is there on that first page, and then our elevations, because of the nature of that building wrapping with that awkward corner there, that's all we have for elevations.
Your submission, you don't have a measured drawing of your existing sign that you're relocating on that facade?
So this is the drawing of the existing sign. I mean, right here on the far left side, that's the exact.
But this is indicating 5'4".
Correct.
Okay, that to me does not appear as 5 foot.
If,
Does?
Yeah.
Okay.
for what it's worth, the Chumley sign now is roughly 3 feet, so
Yeah, it looks like it's,
What's the overhang? What's the dimension on the overhang?
that's listed on the elevation. It may be. If you go to the elevation page, the third page, bottom right-hand corner, you can see that bump out, but it doesn't look like it provides a measurement other than 8'8" from the corner.
Okay, so if that's 8'8", it looks like the left portion from the facade over is around 5 foot. So that would mean that that's cantilevered around 3 foot. Okay, so go back to your perspective. All I'm saying is it looks as, the way it's delineated,
Does it project 3 feet beyond? Okay.
yeah,
Zoom in.
it doesn't,
Can you zoom in on it, please?
I think the sign
We
is,
gotta follow that line down here and then out, so there, see? So you said this is 3 feet,
that's, yeah,
so when we come down, so this is showing it actually bigger than, this is showing it at least 6 feet up from the building. So it's showing it bigger than actually the sign is.
Maybe it's replacing the Chumley sign, which was large and not particularly attractive. I mean, this one's sort of, more charismatic.
I'm just looking for the accuracy of the presentation.
No, I'm with you, Grado. That's,
Yeah, and this is staff, I did ask the applicant to provide to scale and dimension, elevation. And I did just get those two sides, but I did double check that with the scale and the measurements were accurate. I noticed it was a little, maybe on the bigger side, but I'd rather it look a little bigger than too small, so at least for some. Thank you.
And as you noted, this is an existing sign you have installed.
That is correct.
And I'm good with it. Any other comments or questions?
No, I move to accept.
Okay.
I second. Swallowing those keeping second.
So to call the roll, the application, Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Grado,
Yes.
Stones,
Yes.
Mr. Petrozello.
yes.
Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
And Ms. Hufsauer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Oh, great.
Nice to see you in person.
Can I ask you one last question? So the channel letters are okay too?
It,
Above, okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
yes, thank you.
Okay, UID 21-07-05, 1230 North High Street, South Closet, West.
Yes, so. So 1230 North High Street is located at the northeast corner of North High Street at West Fifth Avenue. It's the site of the Out of the Closet thrift store. The applicant is seeking approval for a new wall sign on the building's northeast elevation. The existing sign is approximately 34 square feet, open face and neon lit. The proposed wall sign is approximately 40 square feet, internally lit with white LED channel letters. The sign will have an acrylic base with 3-inch deep letters and be mounted to the facade using flex connectors and conduits. The submittal includes existing site photos, an elevation, and front and side sign specifications. And after review, the proposal is consistent with the recommendations of the University District Plan. The plan recommends for wall signs to be limited in size to a maximum width of 2/3 of the width of the building front and a maximum height of 1/3 of the height of the space between the ground floor transom and the cornice of the building. The plan also recommends internally lit channel letter wall signs and that new signs be designed to be a complementary component of the storefront design in terms of lighting and scale. As the proposed sign incorporates internally lit channel letters, is approximately 1/3 the width of the building front, or approximately 1/4 the height between the transom and the cornice, and complements the overall scale of the building facade. Staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Have you been sworn in?
No.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth? Truth.
I do.
And you must tell us about your application.
Sure. I don't have a whole lot to add. I'm Darren with Sign Vision, by the way, but so the real reason for this, that the sign is essentially going to be the same, the out of the closet part of it. They are going to a channel letter instead of the open face neon. But they do want to add thrift stores because people struggle to know what they are. I mean, you could deduct that eventually by, the word closet and a hanger, but that they want to add thrift stores, and that's really the only change other than going from neon to LED facelit channel letters. So that's.
Questions?
I'm gonna miss that neon hanger.
Oh, yeah. Might be able to, we can give that to you and we can get that. Right.
Is that before and after there?
Yes.
Well, no, two pictures.
Oh, there we go.
Two images. So I still see a hanger.
There is still a hanger. Yeah, yeah. So they're essentially, the out of the closet and the hanger is the same size. They're just adding, they don't want the neon anymore, so they're adding, that's gonna be channel letters now, and then they want thrift stores there as an added description, so people know what they are. So it's still, the out of the closet and hanger, that's all staying. It's just going to LED letters, so.
Anyone else? Make a motion.
The only question I have is why are you engaging the hanger with the word thrift?
I don't know.
Because he can.
Yeah, that's there, yeah.
I can say exactly why it's called.
The electric.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Having solved that, what's the would you like to make a motion?
I move to accept as presented.
A second.
I'm going to call the roll for approval. Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mr. Grado,
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Petrozello,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
and Ms. Newbox-Sauer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chen.
Okay, staff approved applications, the storefront door, anything we need to hear.
No, it was like for like.
Okay. New business, old business?
No,
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
some,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're
thank
done.
you.
Look at this. It's on 20.
Holy cow. I know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I know,
We're still recording and live streaming.
I know. Goodbye, YouTube. Good night.